One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live broadcast of Down the Rabbit Hole here on the Orion Talk Radio Network, oriontalkradio.com. Anyone who wants to go to my chat can just go over to federaljack.com, and right up at the top you'll see radio show chats. You just highlight it and drop-down menu comes, and the first one says DTRH chat room, or you can just click on the widget right up on the top right of federaljack.com where it says Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye. Wednesday and Friday, and then Sundays, just click on that and it'll bring you right to the show chat room, and there is a player there as well. Plus, if you don't want to chat, you just want to listen, you can go over to oriontalkradio.com, and not only do you have a Shoutcast player in the upper left, but there are two links below it, one for the Flash player pop-up and the other for the Shoutcast player Flash pop-up. So there's two different players that you can just open up in a separate pop-up window. If you don't have time to chat, you just want to put it on the background and crank it up and do some other stuff, feel free. We encourage you to do so. So today's show, ladies and gentlemen, it's just going to be me. For 2 hours, you guys get to hear me ranting. Now, I know usually I have guests on and stuff, but sometimes I like to give myself a little bit of time to go over things because I only do a show 3 days a week, and if I have guests on for 2 weeks in a row, all 3 days, a lot of things happen, and sometimes I don't get a chance to comment on them or go over anything or deconstruct anything. So today, I decided to set aside the show for tearing apart a whole bunch of different things that over the past few days I've been seeing and I want to get into and just rip apart. So the first thing I'm going to get into today, the very first thing I'm going to get into today, was mentioned by JJ and Kurt on JJ's show last hour. In fact, I believe it was the second hour of the show they were talking about it. They were talking about ex-Penn State president, what's his name, Graham Spanier. This is the guy that he was forced out because of the whole Penn State thing, and he knew what was going on and didn't do anything. And apparently, his attorney says he's got a job with a high-ranking, I guess, government agency. I'm trying to read, through it as I talk to you. It really doesn't say. JJ was saying from what he was reading on air that it's the NSA, which wouldn't surprise me. CIA, NSA, DIA, FBI, wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, this jerk-off, Graham Spanier, Okay, he had to resign from his position at Penn State because of they call it a sex abuse scandal. Let's just call it child rape. Let's call it what it is. So the child rape scandal. And now he's got a job working for a top secret federal agency. And he's got a top secret clearance. Apparently, the federal government conducted its own re-review of his security clearance in light of his role in the Sandusky case. But they reaffirmed his trustworthiness. Because, hey, if you're willing to, not only condone the rape of little boys and not say anything about it, but probably partake in it yourself, you're one of the boys. Come on down and join. Come on. Want to be a CIA member, an FBI member? All you got to do is touch kids. All you got to do is not tell anybody about it. And you can work for the federal government, too. So you still think they have our best interest in heart? You still think TSA has your best interest at heart? They're hiring criminals. The federal government's hiring people that at the very least covered up pedophilia and child rape. I mean, let's not call it a sex scandal. Let's call it what it is, child rape. I know it's an uncomfortable word, but, or a phrase, I should say. It's two words. And I know it makes one uncomfortable. I know it makes you cringe when you hear, ooh, child rape. Good. You should. It's an evil, disgusting, despicable thing. And this dirtbag should be swinging from a yardarm as well as the rest of the people involved. I don't find there is no leniency with me on this. I'm sorry. When it comes to child rape and defiling children and doing things like that to innocent children, I don't see, oh, well, he can be rehabilitated. No. Why waste my money? Did he do it? Yes. Is he an evil piece of trash? Yes. Good. Time to put him on a chair, underneath the yardarm, string the rope, and kick out the chair and call it a day. Next. There's no reason this guy should be even working for the government. Well, then again, when you sit and think about it, you see the irony, ladies and gentlemen. That's what the dramatic pause was for. A little bit of irony. Penn State president gets fired or forced out because of pedophilia and child rape cover-up. And he goes to work for a top secret agency. Wonder what he's covering up there. Disgusting. I could sit and spend 3 segments going over my feelings on this subject and everything else. I've already explained in numerous shows, as well as many of other hosts have. I'm not the only one. I'm not trying to be the tip of the spear. And a lot of these different hosts, including myself, have gone over the fact that this is directly related to the Boys Town stuff, directly related to Conspiracy of Silence, the Franklin cover-up. I urge you to read that book. I actually have a physical copy of the book. You should actually get a copy of the book. Watch the movie Conspiracy of Silence. It's on Federal Jack. It's on YouTube. But if you get a chance, purchase the book. Get it. Get a physical copy you can hold in your hands. That's something that needs to be spread far and wide. For real. And John DeCamp, the author of the book, didn't even realize when this whole Sandusky thing came out, because he hadn't visited the book and the investigation in a while, but he didn't even realize it until somebody apparently pointed out to him that he had called out Sandusky a while ago in his research into this whole thing. So this is all interconnected. I mean, Sandusky had his own little friggin' kid pimp ring. You going to tell me, do I think that Spanier, do I think he molested kids? I don't know. I don't have any evidence. I mean, I could say he didn't accuse him, but I really don't have any evidence to support that. That would be hearsay. But, I mean, is it a possibility? Why'd he cover it up? Was it just about the football? See, everybody loves to say, oh, it was just about the football, Popeye. It was just about the football, because that's what the media focused the attention on. And that's how they shaped it, the defense and everything. You ever wonder if Sandusky got a visit and said, keep your mouth shut and you'll be taken care of? I have often talked about that. This is all interconnected. When you hear different radio hosts in the alternative media and or bloggers, whatever, writers, when you hear or see their writings about this subject and they tell you the horrible things they do, the McMartin School, Gunderson, covered that, as well as many other people have covered the McMartin School. But there's a ton of other things I could sit here and list. The point is, it's all interconnected. Now, do you think it's just for sex? Do you think it's just for them playing around and having sex, these kids? No. They're doing more heinous things. They're doing rituals. Who are they worshiping? Well, they hide under the guise of Satanism, but who are they really worshiping? That's up for debate. The point is, whatever it is, it's evil. Child rape is horrible enough, but child rape on top of human sacrifice, well, I guess that just takes the cake, doesn't it? It's time to be grown-ups and admit this stuff is real. Jerry Sandusky is not an isolated incident. It's a symptom of a much larger problem rearing its ugly head. Going to break, we'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Now, staying in this same, not too much the same vein as attacking the pedophiles that lurk at Penn State and elsewhere, but staying in that frame of children being targeted. Something else I want to talk about. Very disturbing. Now, this actually came out from the mainstream media. And, of course, sometimes they release things for different reasons, blah, 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 blah. But every once in a while, you will find actually a nugget of truth in their treasure trove of crap. And this, I actually found at CBS, and it really blew my mind. I already knew about it, but it's one of those things that when you talk about it and you try to educate people, and then you've seen the lamestream dinosaur media actually reporting the same thing and finally admitting to it, I guess it just it hits it's validation, but at the same time it's like a sucker punch in the stomach still. Especially it solidifies the research I've done. And when it comes to, again, little kids and what they're doing to little kids, nothing pisses me off more, because they can't defend themselves. Children are innocent. They can't do anything to protect themselves. Okay? I'd like to see these scumbags try that shit with me or somebody else that could clearly defend themselves and remove someone's head right from their body and go bowling with it. They wouldn't. They take on the weak. Cowardice. Ugh, cowardice. Just complete cowardice. It's the only word I could describe what they do. Anyway, we often talk about how they're destroying the family as well. And they target children through education, school, what Charlotte Iserby calls the education classes, like sex ed or death ed or anything like that. Anything you hear ed attached to it usually has the opposite effect. And with sex education and the sexualization of children and everything else, teaching kids about sex is one thing, okay? But they do it a different way. And I don't have to sit here and waste too much time going over how they do it. The point is, everybody knows how they do it. Media, the things are taught differently in school. First of all, I really don't think teachers should be teaching kids about sex. I think that should be the parents, but that's besides the point. If anything, they could cover it in a health class, and then they obviously should cover it at some point. But I really think when it comes to condoms and handing out condoms and sex like that, I really think that should stay with the parents. Anyway, this is all part of the destruction of the family. And I find this article on CBS, and it's titled Study. Girls as young as 6 are thinking of selves as sex objects. And I'm going to repeat that one more time, because I know that the young teens, even the preteens of like 10 and 11 are targeted. But this shows you how sick and how twisted their plan really is. And again, it validates what we said about the destruction of the family. This is this part of this whole New World Order, Illuminist system that they want. Girls as young as 6 are thinking of themselves as sex objects. A new study by Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, indicates that girls as young as 6 are beginning to think of themselves as sex objects. For the study, which was published earlier this month in the journal Sex Roles, researchers asked dozens of girls from the Midwest between the ages of 6 and 9 to choose a doll that looked like themselves, that they wanted to look like, that would be most popular in school or that they wanted to play with. Across the board, they chose what would have been termed the sexy dolls, dressed in tight and revealing clothing. So that goes to show you that girls don't care about the image that's being put on children, even as young as 6. They're being targeted. That it's not about, women aren't sexy if they have brains. They're only sexy if they show their midriff and they have nice looking legs or a nice ass or a nice pair of tits or nice long hair, blue eyes and blonde hair and long nails. And they wear mini skirts, and they say, they're like the girls on that stupid show, The Bad Girls Club, which is one of these reality shows that's used to train people and twist their heads. And yes, I know the name of it because one must understand what you're up against. So I do research. I know a lot of what they pump out there. It is crap. It shows like that show these young girls that you're supposed to dress like a provocative slut, go get drunk, be as rambunctious and rowdy as you possibly can. I mean, everything opposite of what you would teach a girl and want her to be, taught so that she becomes a proper young lady. Oh, no. We can't have that. We have to turn the 6-year-olds, we have to turn their heads, and we have to change their thinking so that they think of themselves as sex objects. Because, hey, children are sexual objects too, right? Isn't that what the sick bastards over at NAMBLA say about little boys? That they're sexual objects, right? I mean, this is disgusting. Where the frig are the parents? Mothers out there, I challenge you. How about stepping up to the plate and being a mom? Oh, it's so cute when she puts on that little mini skirt and dances. Oh, it's so cute, isn't it? No, it's not cute. It's disgusting. That crap on TV, TLC, what is that? Toddlers and Tiaras. All those parents should be arrested. That's child abuse. That's friggin' child abuse. Child abuse isn't not vaccinating your child because you don't want him to be filled with toxins and poisons, or not wanting to give your kid psychotropic drugs, but they'll send a SWAT team to your house for that. But it's okay to dress your kid up like a little Barbie doll at 4 or 5 years old, putting mini skirts on her, putting outfits on her that, a woman in her 20s might be, a little too modest to wear. Are you kidding me? And you're allowing this? Speaking to the parents right now. What is wrong with you? If I had a child, I don't have kids. This is one of the reasons I don't have kids. My wife and I chose not to bring kids into this world right now because it's too screwed up. I wouldn't want to do that to another human being. Can't stand when people talk about being self-righteous because they brought children into the world. Not that I have anything against kids or people with parents. I think it's great if you want to have a family. But don't talk all self-righteous because you brought a child into the world, especially nowadays. Because most of these parents that are so self-righteous about how great, I'm so awesome, I helped create life. Yeah, anybody can create life. Getting laid is easy. Raising the child is the hard part. Sticking the kid in front of the television, not raising it. Because look what you're doing. Now you got 6-year-old girls looking at themselves like they're sex objects. This is disgusting. Those mothers should be horrified. But they won't. Half those mothers will just think it's cute. Oh, it's cute, isn't it? She wants to wear miniskirts. No. She's going to be pregnant by the time she's 20, stupid. You want to be a grandma by the time you're 55? Do you want your kid giving birth when she's 20 years old? Don't you think maybe because we live longer now, maybe she could spend a couple more years educating herself or doing something first, experiencing life a little bit before you get locked down into that kind of responsibility? Oh, no, they're young. They're old enough. They can handle a Popeye. Oh, really? Well, apparently they can't. Because they plunk their kids down in front of the TV. They don't sit and raise their kids. And I don't want to hear that's how you raise your kid today because people are so busy. That's horse crap. I know plenty of people that are busy as hell, both the husband and the wife, and they homeschool their kids. Not only do they know what their kids are up to, and they're on top of their kids when it becomes the behavior and stuff like that and what they're watching and what they're taking into their brains, but they homeschool them as well. So no excuse. No excuse. I don't want to hear it. You're raising the future of this planet and you're doing a piss poor job. Unfrigging acceptable. Step up to the plate and do your job. There is no going back. You're a parent. We're going to break. I'll be right back. We are back, and now comes one of my favorite parts of the day. Dissecting the fear porn put out by not only the mainstream media, but in this case, the Department of Homeland Security. That's right, they have released a new public safety video. Interestingly enough, 3 days after the Aurora, Colorado shooting. So apparently they have a film crew standing on by with props and a director and a ton of actors and obviously a set. They probably used a federal building for this, but obviously some sort of set that they were able to, have at least a day or two of shooting. And they were able to close off a certain section of this building to do it. So I guess I guess you could say it's a coincidence, right? No, I don't buy it. This video gets put together and uploaded to YouTube within 3 days of the mass shooting in Aurora, Colorado. And it's called Run, Hide, Fight, Surviving an Active Shooter Event. I'm not kidding. It's about a 6-minute video. I'm going to play clips from it, and then I'll stop it here and there and interrupt it. But it's completely convenient that this comes out 3 days afterwards. Very, very convenient. Very interesting, to say the least. Convenient. That happens all the time. It's a coincidence. Nothing to see here. Right? You're going to tell me they put together... and this thing's pretty well done, like video editing-wise, effects-wise, the look... It's crisp, it's clean, so they used expensive camera, they used good video editing software to cut it up and to put it together. You're going to tell me they were able to do all of that? All of that? Production and then post-production? All of that? In 3 days? And get it uploaded? And it looks like that? No, I don't think so. Ask any filmmaker out there. It takes longer than 3 days to get the adequate footage you need to cut something that long. I do video editing. This reeks. Wait till you hear it. And of course they've got the dramatic music. Ugh. Here, I'm going to play it and rip it apart. It's to the point now that I can't even watch or listen to any of the stuff that comes out from the government or from the mainstream media because it's just so blatantly filled with crap. It's done to scare you. And they tell you, run, hide, or fight. You should see, this guy's walking around with a shotgun, right? Dressed, kind of looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator, minus the leather jacket. Black T-shirt, black SWAT pants, work boots, black sunglasses, shaved head, and a black backpack. And he's just walking around. He just pulls a shotgun out of his backpack and just starts shooting people. Just randomly starts acing people because, hey, that's what happens now. Lone wolf terrorists for no reason. They just want to kill. Kill, kill, kill. We got to get rid of guns. It's actually titled Run, Hide, Fight, Surviving an Active Shooter Event. And you see the guy, he's walking up towards the building all quietly looking around with his sunglasses on and his backpack.
It may feel like just another day at the office. But occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces.
In the lobby of the building, everybody's waiting.
Sometimes bad people.
Now, as they're saying this, as they say, sometimes bad people do bad things. You see people walking around the lobby of the building, going in the elevators and stuff, just doing their normal daily work routine, right? And then they start to throw numbers up on top of the on the video in the corner, and it's pretty big. It takes up, I would say, about a quarter of the screen in the one corner, and it stretches across the bottom, and they start throwing up numbers. 21 killed, 19 wounded, eating at a fast food restaurant. No dates, no location, no anything. No timestamp, nothing. So it doesn't even tell you, on the, June 2nd, 1981, whatever, October 5th, 1995, whatever. Doesn't say any of that. It just says 21 killed, 19 wounded, eating at a fast food restaurant. Really? Where was this? I don't seem to remember this massacre. I know there's a lot of massacres out there. I know things have happened, but 21 killed, 19 wounded? Could you give me a little more than that? Could you tell me a little more? Oh, you can't? You're just going to go on. Okay. And it continues.
Do bad things.
Then 32 killed, 25 wounded while attending classes.
Their motivations are different.
6 killed, 13 wounded at a shopping center.
The warning signs may vary.
13 killed, 29 wounded while at work.
But the devastating effects are the same.
And I'm not saying that there haven't been mass shootings, but here's my question. Again, what are you referencing with those numbers? I could easily make a video and just throw up numbers. The DHS killed 150 people today, and, oh my God, we have to ban DHS. I could make propaganda videos too, So can everybody else. There's a lot of skilled video editors out there, people that are way better than me. So, where are you getting this from? Where are you getting this from, DHS? Where are you getting these numbers from? You're probably taking real incidents and inflating the numbers, and then not using the names because people would be able to go back and reference what your claim against what really happened, and when they saw it, they would see that you were lying. So you just throw random inflated numbers up there. Again, this is how they control people, ladies and gentlemen. Because the average person is going to see this, and it's, again, the quality of the editing is very professional. So you see the guy with the music, he's walking, and they got the creepy mood set music in the background, and then you see just numbers coming up on the screen with, some lettering, and it says, 50-something people wounded and 20 killed here, or 32 killed here. Now, again, there have been mass shootings, but what are you referencing? Each one, you're just throwing numbers out there. There's no information behind it. No location, no date, no timestamp. Fear porn.
And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst.
Here he comes. Walks right past the security guard and...
If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan...
Note the music in the background. Now, music is used to set mood. And if you understand anything about how the human brain works, music affects us. They know this. They play things on a certain level, certain chords, to a certain specific beat. They know how to get your heart rate up. They're playing suspenseful music in the background right now because active shooter at work, Popeye. Oh no!
It doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority.
Stop that guy! Hey!
Oh, they're going to go save someone's life. Hey, don't go in the building. Mr. Bike Messenger guy, you're going to get shot.
And call 911.
help us, we're unarmed and we can't defend ourselves. Come, please, 911. He's killed 15 people already. To be the bad man. They don't tell you get a gun. They do tell you to fight, but when they tell you to fight, they tell you to use improvised weapons. One person's got a coffee pot. Yeah, that's going to stand up well against a shotgun. How about if everybody was armed, you could just walk out in the hallway and shoot the son of a bitch? How about that? I'm going to continue playing this horrible, horrible, horrible advice from DHS to the general public. And of course, it's propaganda. It's used to control you. It's get people to be subservient. If you're going to fight, it's the last thing you should do, because it's the last thing they show. They show running first. They show hiding. And then the last thing they show is fight, which is actually the first thing you should show to instill that in people. But what they want you to do is run and be afraid and be dependent on them to protect yourselves. Never do they say, well, if you're in one of the states that people carry concealed weapons or open carry, or people just had guns at work, this would have ended quickly, because there was one security guard in the very beginning, and he was sitting there chatting with his cup of coffee, talking to a lady, and the guy walked in, pulled a shotgun out, and the first person he shot was the security guard. Well, if you're depending on someone else to protect you, DHS just showed you in the first 30 seconds of their video that obviously you can't depend on that person or anyone, because the first person that's going to be targeted is your protector. So if everybody had guns, as in the beginning, when he shot the first guy and he turned and he shot the chick that the cop was talking to, those two might have gotten hit, even a third person. But by the time he swung the gun around and maybe shot a third person, there would have been other guns coming out in the lobby, and it would have been on like Donkey Kong, okay? It would have been over. But they don't teach you that. They want you to run and hide. And what's the last thing they show you before they go to the, they cut to the end of the run segment, and then they're going to go to the hide segment. They show the woman, please help us. She's on the phone at 911. Please come help us. Because that's always worked out in the past for everybody that's ever waited for 911 to come help them when there's someone in their house with an axe, a knife, a gun. Yeah. Waiting for 911 always helps. No thanks. I dial 357. And then I dial 911 afterwards to come clean it up. People need to learn how to defend themselves. And then as it's got the bullet points, now it's got the educational, music in the background. Oh, here we go.
If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide.
Ramp up the tension.
Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can.
So, I love it. They're in a room. They're in an office. There's like 5 or 6 people in the office, and they start freaking out, and they push a round coffee table in front of the door. It's just a coffee, the coffee table, conference table, whatever, not big. They take it and they just, 2 people, 3 people push it in front of the door. Now, the door obviously has no lock on it, right? It opens inward. So the guy's got some leverage to push with the door. And you're using a round table. Does anybody understand physics? Do you understand that the round table will push away from the door because of the shape of the table? Good advice. Good advice, Department of Homeland Security.
And if possible, remember to lock...
And the other lady shoves a copier in front of the door.
Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm.
Make sure you silence your cell phone. Your hiding place should be, and then it's got 3 bullet points, be out of the shooter's view, provide protection if shots are fired in your direction, and not trap or restrict your options for movement. Anybody with half a brain and any sense of survival skills could tell you that. They point out the blatantly obvious, and this woman's just praying to God, holding her cell phone. I hope he doesn't shoot me. The copier will protect me. No, a .357 would protect you because you'd be able to shoot the bald bastard right in his face.
As a last resort, if your life is at risk.
As a last resort, if your life is at risk. Isn't this an active shooter situation? Let me repeat that one more time. You're making a video about an active shooting situation, right? How to survive it. And as a last resort, you see what they tell you? As a last resort, should you fight back? Fighting back and protecting yourself should never be the first option. It should always be the last. You should be a pussy first. Let people die. Disgusting propaganda. And then it says, if your life is at risk. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Sherlock, but if I'm in an active shooting situation where some madman's walking around with a shotgun randomly shooting people in an office building, wouldn't that technically put my life at risk? So telling me to fight back only if my life is at risk, that doesn't make any sense. You see the doublespeak, ladies and gentlemen? You see how they try to program people? As a last resort, should you fight back? God forbid you should try to kick the crap out of the person trying to hurt you.
You are alone or working together as a group. Fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him.
Improvised weapons. Improvised weapons. Right? So one of them, the one woman's cowering in the corner, and then a couple other people grab some stuff. One guy grabs a chair. The one guy, the one smart dude in the room, grabbed a fire extinguisher. Now that's a formidable weapon. If you can not get shot, you can get in close and nail that sumbitch in the forehead. You'll take someone out. You kill him with that thing. The chair you could throw at him, and maybe that would give. Actually, if the guy with the chair, as soon as the guy with the shotgun opened the door, if he swung the chair on a downward motion, forcing the shotgun down to the floor, the guy with the extinguisher could then stand by the doorway and clock some bitch in the forehead, knock him out, take his gun, and then shoot him like 2 or 3 times in the chest to make sure he's dead. That's not murder. That's self-defense. Sorry. Guy's walking around actively shooting people. I wouldn't stop until he was, dead and not moving. This isn't going to be a horror movie. But anyway, the only guy that picks up anything formidable is the fire extinguisher. Everything else, one of them picks up a coffee pot, which if it had hot coffee or hot water in it would be formidable, because then you could throw it at the guy and burn him, which would maybe stun him for a second and get him to lower the gun. But you could try to smash him with the coffee pot, but you ain't going to get real close unless you get him from behind or something. He's got a shotgun. He's got it aimed at you, and you're running at him with a coffee pot. Use improvised weapons. Why don't they just have guns? See, if DHS was really concerned about your safety, they would say, well, if everybody was armed, this would have been over when the guy was in the lobby. He wouldn't have made it this far into the building. He would have been dead.
And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what.
Attempt to incapacitate the shooter. Act with physical aggression. Commit to your actions. Use improvised weapons.
Be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this,
And then what do they show coming in to rescue you? But they show 2 cops, uniformed. Now, they could be security, but I doubt it. They look like cops. Okay, so you have 2 uniformed police officers with their gun belts and everything else, and they're all holding assault rifles. And then in the middle are 2 guys dressed in full body armor. Okay, they have chest plates, neck protectors, groin protectors, tactical helmets, and they're wearing Marine Corps digicam. Now, interestingly enough, the 2 police officers, you're able to disseminate that they're cops. But these 2 dudes in the camo, people could say, well, I've seen sheriffs in that, Popeye, as have I. So I watched the video a couple times to make sure that they had patches or something that said sheriff on it. They don't. They have like a patch on the shoulder, but it's a blank patch. So they're just getting you mentally used to seeing with your own eyes and mentally prepared to see Marines in Digicam going around with police on an active shooter scene, coming in ready to do combat and kill everyone around that might have a weapon or might be a threat. Now, the two cops, it's funny because the two cops are on the outside of these guys, and these guys are on the inside. They have body armor and everything else, and the cops don't have anything but their guns. I mean, they have assault rifles, but they don't have anything but their guns. There's no body armor, no helmets. But the two Marines, and that's what I'm going to call them because they're wearing Marine Corps camis. They're dressed to look as closely and resemble Marines that you would see like a Marine MP. And that dovetails with what just came out a couple days ago. The Associated Press released a news story about the fact that the Marine Corps is now making law enforcement battalions. Battalions. Law enforcement battalions. Did that sink in? Did I give you a couple seconds there to let it sink in? Are you seeing what I'm putting down? This thing from an active shooter released conveniently 3 days after a real shooting event, and the situation at the end, their solution is two cops with ARs and then two guys dressed in Marine Corps camis coming in with them. What do you think they're trying to set you up for mentally? Especially considering they just created these military police battalions. Time to wake up, ladies and gentlemen. You see the propaganda now? You understand what they're doing? Hour 1 up, hour 2 coming up. Stay tuned. We are back with hour number 2 here on today's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from federaljack.com, and it is hour number 2, July 29th, 2012. I hope in the first hour I was able to explain, at least the last half hour of it there, I was able to show you what they're setting you up for and exactly how all this stuff just comes out and it all fits in and it all connects. You have the theater shooting, and there's a couple different things. You know, the kid's father's connected to the Lieber scandal, which is kind of shady in itself. But you have the shooting. They immediately call for gun control. And by the way, Cybersecurity Act, they're trying to sneak in a magazine ban on anything over 10 rounds. That would ban the magazines that come standard in most pistols. 13 rounds, 15 rounds, too much. You wouldn't be allowed to have it. It'd be like California, nothing over 10 rounds. It's just, you could see what they're doing, and they're trying to sneak it to the cybersecurity bill. So pay attention to that, because there's a ton of things I'm going to be talking about today. And if I forget to mention that, that's getting voted on this week. We need to raise hell and not let them pass that. And people need to get involved and wake up, because they're gonna pass a high capacity, what they call high capacity, anything over 10 rounds magazine ban in that cybersecurity bill. So not only will they destroy the internet with this new cybersecurity bill, because we need cybersecurity, because the CIA and all their little, the NSA and the military and all their little punk hackers that they have working for them, and there are good hackers out there, but there are little punks that work for the government, and they do false flag events. I've had Winston on; he's talked about this, where the government will do something and claim that Anonymous did it, and then you go on Twitter. Sometimes you'll see Anonymous, and they're like, "We didn't do that." You'll see the Twitter feeds, press releases. I've seen them say, "We didn't do that. We're being blamed for it, but we didn't do it." So what does that tell you? It tells you exactly what Winston said is true. It validates it. And it all dovetails together. And all of this stuff in the first, at least the second half hour of the show, in the first hour, I hope I was able to get that across to you. That active shooter warning, whatever, how to survive it, whatever, public service announcement that they put out 3 days after the shooting, right? Conveniently, it's a pretty big production. If you look at it, the production value of it, there's no way they did that with editing, production and post-production and everything, and having it up in 3 days. There's just no way. Not unless they had the crew on standby waiting for the shooting to happen, and then they started filming Friday morning, at like 6 a.m. And then that didn't come out in the news, and nobody found that a little weird, because it's a rather large, quote-unquote, cast that they have in this public service announcement. And in the end, what do they show you? They show you 2 uniformed police officers and 2 guys wearing what can be only described as, because it is, Marine Corps digital camo. And it's the Marine Corps woodland version of the digital camo. And they're running around with that on. Groin protectors, full body armor, tactical helmet. They look like military. They look like Marines. Now, again, you could say, well, some sheriff's departments have those outfits, but a lot of times the sheriffs go all green. These guys look like Marines. And then when you look at the news that came out in the past week about the Marine Corps having law enforcement battalions and that they're going to be working with civilian law enforcement agencies, which is against the law, violates the Constitution, violates posse comitatus. When I went to boot camp, the first thing they taught us, I think it was day 4, not only do they beat you and make you do physical stuff and they teach you how to shoot, and if you don't know how to shoot and everything else, they also sit you down for classes. Anybody that's ever been through boot camp knows what I'm talking about. One of the first things they taught us was posse comitatus. I remember the class. They told us, my drill instructor said, if you're out walking in the street and you see something going down, don't try to be a hero and help the cops out. That's not your job. You're not a cop. You want to be a cop? Be a cop when you get out of the military. For right now, your ass belongs to the military. You are not a police officer. It is against the law for you to get involved in police business. Don't try to go out and be a hero or solve crimes with cops or anything like that. I don't know if they teach that anymore in boot camp. I'd love to talk to somebody that just went through boot camp or recently went through boot camp but is awake and understands what's going on now, because I would love to find out, even if they're not, I would love to just pick someone's brain as to what happened in their, what their experience in boot camp was like over, let's say, within the past 2 years, because I'm willing to bet it's changed drastically than from when I went through. And it wasn't that long ago that I went through. It wasn't like it was 25 years ago. So you can see how they're changing the training. I'm willing to bet they probably don't even give that class about posse comitatus anymore. I mean, that was one of the first things they taught us. You're not a cop. You're in the military. Don't even think about trying to be Johnny Law, because it ain't your business. I'm willing to bet they probably don't even teach that anymore. That's what the country's coming to, ladies and gentlemen. Time to wake up. We need to wake up the military. We need to wake up the good police officers. And, if there's bad police officers, which there are a lot of bad police officers, unfortunately. The good ones, if you guys want to get your name back, and you guys always bitch, well, you label all of us for the actions of a few, then clean your mess up. Don't cover it up. Don't hide behind the damn police union and all their bullshit. Step up to the plate and clean house. And not only fire the bad cops, but prosecute them. Charge them and prosecute them. Because you would do it to a civilian. So there's no reason why, because the guy went through the police academy class of whatever, he's one of the boys. That's crap. You want to gain respect back from the general populace? Start to police your own and take care of your business. End of story. Moving on. Former Homeland Security head. Heated political rhetoric threatens public safety. Give you one guess who said that. Mr. Dual Citizen Israeli Zionist Michael Chertoff said last week Sunday that the rise of incendiary political rhetoric in recent years threatens public safety. This is what he said. No one can say that any particular comment leads a madman to decide to do this in regards to the Colorado shooting. But I do believe that the general, coercing and aggravation of the dialogue, the fact that disagreement is often characterized as a matter of people having enemies or wanting to commit acts of violence, does affect some minority of individuals, and that raises the danger to everybody. I'll repeat that last part. The fact that disagreement is often characterized as a matter of people having enemies or wanting to commit acts of violence does affect some minority of individuals, and that raises the danger to everybody. Okay, so what he's saying is, well, it's a fact. I mean, you can see how he just throws it out there that it's a fact. Look, the fact is that because people are having this dialogue and they're arguing back and forth, whether it's political rhetoric or anything else, especially political rhetoric, though, because that's what he's talking about. You can't have this heated political rhetoric because you know what? Look what happens. Some guy goes out and shoots up a movie theater. Now, I don't recall at all now this is last Sunday. Now, I waited a week to bring this up for a reason because some people have talked about it last week, but I wanted to see what the mainstream media was going to say. And I wanted to be able to show how he's completely out of his mind and how he is trying to steer the idea and the thinking. And that's why Chertoff goes out after every time there's a little event or something like this. He's always on in one of the talking heads. He's trying to steer the narrative. That's the word I was looking for. He's steering the narrative. He says, the fact that disagreement is often characterized as a matter of people having enemies or wanting to commit acts of violence. So he's saying the fact that it's a fact that disagreements are often characterized by, that's my enemy because we disagree, and that we want to commit violence against you. So now everybody has to get along because if you disagree, you want to commit violence. And you could be a Colorado madman. But look, over the course of the week, I haven't heard that it was his politics that caused him to do this. So what do you think Chertoff was trying to get across with that statement? I know what he was trying to get across. He's trying to link political discourse to the Aurora, Colorado shooting. This guy hasn't said why he did it, which is another red flag, and he probably can't say why he did it because he's so drugged out of his mind. And even if he did say why he did it, what was the motivation in his head anyway, at that moment, what was going on, what he remembers and what he doesn't remember, it's going to be damn near impossible for any of us to find out because the judge sealed everything. First, he sealed all, people from speaking and records from being released, and then he went and threw all the cameras out of the courtroom. And that only happened after there was mass speculation because of the guy's first appearance in the court. He was drugged out of his mind. Drugged out of his mind. And like Nathan said on Friday when he was on with me, Nathan Frazier, a.k.a. Paranoid, host here on the network, all-around awesome individual, he made a really great point that if people realize that this guy's drugged out of his mind, they're going to say, hey, these legal proceedings are not, this isn't even legal what's going on in here. This is completely, everything's out of order. He is out of his mind. He's drugged up. He's not fit to even be sitting here with his attorney right now. He's out of his mind. He's not, if you're drugged up like that, you can't be drugged. You can't be, it's like coercion almost. And Nathan explained this really well. And basically, if you understand, like he does, the court system, and you look at what the judge did, that's a big red flag. I mean, it's a big red flag to begin with. But what they can do now is they can say whatever they want. Because he's obviously drugged out of his mind, right? The guy can't take care of himself. I'm sure he's probably peeing in a diaper right now and drooling on himself. They've got him so drugged up on whatever, Thorazine or whatever else they're pumping into him. Usually it's a chemical cocktail. My wife actually explained what it is to me because she knows a little bit about this. She's done research into this stuff. And she said that they call it the trifecta or something like that. The shot is called, and that's these doctors' little nickname for it. And basically, it's 3 different drugs, and it keeps you pretty much drooling on yourself. It's like Thorazine, but a little bit. There's other things in there. There's I forget exactly. One of them is Benadryl, in case you have an allergic reaction, as the patient being injected to whatever they're sticking in you. But anyway, digressing a little bit, the point is they can control the information that comes out, the flow of it, okay? They can control the whole outcome of the case. Now, he's going to be a lone gunman. There isn't going to be a second person. Doesn't matter what the eyewitnesses came out. You notice they sealed all the testimony and everything. The first ban came from the judge when that guy went on TV and was like, I saw somebody get up, fake a phone call, go over an open door and stand there and wait, and then wave the guy to come in, and then, he came in. So there had to be two, more than one person. Had to be a second person. And the media tried to ignore it, and then they were forced to pick it up because the alternative media picked up on this local media report that interviewed this kid. Again, paying attention to local media in a time of crisis when something first happens. I always tell you, very important. And the alternative media did so, picked up on it, put it up on YouTube, put it all over the internet, and made it so viral that the mainstream media was forced to talk about it. So as soon as they started talking about it, bam, this judge shuts everything down. Nobody can talk about it. And then they bring the cameras in. Everybody's like, well, now this guy's drugged out of his mind. Look, he's controlled. Bam. No cameras. Sealed. Now, that allows them to steer the narrative. Do whatever they want. They create the story. You, me, whoever could say, no, that's BS, blah, 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 blah. But we can't even fight it because now we can't even have access to any of the information at all. So we're left to speculate based off of what we can find and what we know, and that is how these mainstream douches and the government will go after you, and they'll try, or whoever in the alternative media, and they'll try to debunk what you say with their official version, and they'll have all these facts that have come out in court, and people go, well, they have all the stuff that came out in court. Well, of course, because they sealed it. They wouldn't let it out to anybody on some judge's order because he feels that you shouldn't have the right to know what happened. Why? Why shouldn't we have the right to know? Oh, it could taint the investigation. That's bullshit. I'm going to call you out right now. Liar. Somebody paid that judge a visit, probably with a paper bag filled with cash. Sellout. That's right. You're nothing to me. I'm not in your quote-unquote jurisdiction. I'm not in your ship. And I don't acquiesce to your BS. Liar. Absolute liar. Prosecutor, I think, is the one that said that, too. To taint the investigation. So you knowing what's going on, a clear and transparent, quote-unquote, investigation. That's not an investigation. It's called a whitewash. It's called directing and steering the narrative. Like Napoleon Bonaparte said, the winners are the ones that write history. And these guys are writing history right in front of you. And Paranoid pointed this out. Nathan said, look, if you pay attention to this and you see what they're doing and you understand just the basics that you should understand about how the court system works, they have to keep it out of people's faces because it was already in your face that people saw this guy was drugged out of his mind and people were questioning it. And the mainstream media had to run around and go, oh, he's faking it. I actually saw CNN and a couple other people actually, and CNN was pushing this specifically, saying that, oh, he's faking it and this guy he's obviously trying to do it, to throw people off, but no one's buying it. He was out of his mind. Out of his mind. And they're trying to set the narrative. They don't want you to know the truth because this thing is so transparent. And besides, people are awake now. This isn't even 10 years ago when you could pull this off and people would still buy into the fear. Thanks to the alternative media stepping up. And the alternative media, by the way, has been around a long time. Mae Brussel was part of it. If you listen to her shows, she mentions calling what her and others did, and this is back in the 70s, they were calling themselves the alternative media. So we're not groundbreaking here. We just ramped it up. We have a little bit more cooler technology than they did back then to help fight. But none of us are trailblazers, by the way. Okay? Nobody that's out right now is a trailblazer or the tip of the spear. The real tip of the spear, people like May and Bill Cooper, but even before him, Edward G. Griffin, People like that. That's the tip of the spear. Okay? That's the real tip of the spear. People that have been doing this for a long, long, long time. Jim Mars. Other people. People that have been around for a long time. Charlotte Iserby. Anthony Sutton. He's dead now. Even Anthony Hilder. There's a ton of people that have been doing this a very long time and exposing stuff a very long time. I had to get off on that for a second because sometimes people forget that there were others that trailblazed the path for us and that these people should be recognized once in a while. I like May. But anyway, she mentioned the alternative media back in the 70s. And they had an effect back then. Now we have a bigger effect. They can't pull this stuff off anymore. Look, 10 years ago they could pull a shooting off like this and ramp up the fear, and they still do. But now more people question it and are hoisting the bullshit flag. Humanity's waking up. Slowly, but it's waking up. We'll be right back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and I have something for you. This is about, I would say the story came out about a week ago, but there's been so many other things going on, and I was working on rebuilding Federal Jack, and because we are, yes, by the way, we are building a new site on the side. We're going to take some time to do it, and, everything will be transferred over. We'll let everybody know when we're going to transfer it over. But for right now, the site, the old site, is up and running right now like it normally is, and it is cleaned up. We got attacked hardcore last week, and we had to take some time to fix things. So I've been busy during the week, and I didn't get a chance to get in a lot of stuff, and I had guests and stuff on. So I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I want to bring this up, and I want to play this clip really quick. It's really short, but the NYPD, and this just came out. This happened back in 2009, June 2nd of 2009, in New Brunswick, New Jersey. They were doing a apartment inspection. Anybody that's ever lived in an apartment will know what I'm talking about. And they were doing this like every 5-year inspection, and they were walking around, and the residents had been notified weeks before, and when they walked up to this one apartment, the notice was still taped to the door. Well, the people went in, the apartment manager, whoever, they opened the door and went in, and they found radios and all this surveillance equipment. And because of all the propaganda that's been put out since 9/11, they immediately thought, oh, terrorism. The guy must be a terrorist. They're plotting another 9/11. So they called the police. They called the New Brunswick police. Well, it turns out that it wasn't. Well, it was terrorists, but it wasn't the kind of terrorist they thought it was. It wasn't some Muslim with a turban on his head or some homegrown terrorist. Well, I guess you could say it was a homegrown terrorist. It was the NYPD. They were outside of their jurisdiction in New Jersey conducting surveillance. In New Brunswick, New Jersey. Go look on Google Maps exactly how far that is from New York City. So you can, it's not like it's 100 miles away, but it's definitely well out of their jurisdiction. Well out of their jurisdiction. Anyway, the woman and the guy that were doing the inspection, they called 911, and the NYPD fought for 3 years to keep the audio of this 911 call to the New Brunswick, New Jersey police secret, because they didn't want you to know that they do stuff like this outside of their jurisdiction. But the AP somehow got their hands on it, whoever decided to release it, and they put it out the other day. Here's the audio from the call.
Your state inspection,
Mm-hmm.
and came across an apartment where there's some suspicious activity.
What's suspicious?
Suspicious in the sense that the apartment has no furniture except 2 beds, has no clothing, has New York City Police Department radios. There's computers in there. There's computer hardware, software, just laying around.
Uh-huh.
There's pictures of terrorists. There's pictures.
I love how there's pictures of terrorists. How do you know they're terrorists? Does it say wanted terrorist, Abu Nadal? I'm just using that because he's, one of the boogeymen along with Osama bin Laden that's always hiding in your closet, him and Joseph Kony. And, Joseph Kony, blah, 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 blah. Known terrorist. How do you know they're terrorists? How do you know those are pictures of terrorists? How do you know those aren't pictures of just average people walking around minding their own business, being spied on by some tyrannical police department? It's the 7th or 8th largest army in the world, the NYPD. And Bloomberg's quoted as saying, I have the, like the 7th or whatever it is, 7th or 8th largest army in the world. Ha, ha, ha. I'm friggin' tyrant.
Our neighboring buildings that they have.
In New Brunswick?
Yes.
So you were inspecting the apartments for...
We have our annual, our every 5-year state inspection for every apartment.
Okay.
So we notified all the residents that we'd be going into each unit.
Okay.
And that was about 2 weeks ago. And so we've been going through the building, unit by unit. And we came across this one apartment, number 1076, and it had these serious items. But it doesn't seem like it's someone's in there, because we sent out a notice about 2 weeks ago that we're going to be doing the state inspection, and that notice is was still hanging on the front door.
Okay. All right. Whoever's in the apartment, just tell them to get out, and I will speak to my supervisor, obviously.
Isn't that interesting, her reaction to that? I'll speak to my supervisor. Really? Usually when people call 911 and they say, oh my God, I think there's a terrorist or there's someone with a gun or I found something suspicious. I mean, you have cops rappelling in from helicopters out of nowhere. The bike cops will even show up. The meter maid will show up. Hey, what's going on? How can I get someone a ticket? Can I help out? And her reaction is, well, I'll talk to my supervisor. So makes you wonder, did the New Brunswick police know that NYPD was there? I'm sure they did. I'm sure someone higher up did. And I'm sure there was probably a note hanging. Or somehow this woman, this dispatcher, knows more. I don't know how. I don't want to try to assume how she knows more. I'm sure it's very simple, come down from the top, maybe a note or whatever. But she obviously knows more than she's letting on. Her reaction tells you that. And this was back in 2009. So it took 3 years for this audio to come out. Just goes to show you that the NYPD they're out of control. They really are. Bloomberg has his own little personal army. They are bigger, the NYPD. They have more people than the United States Coast Guard. The United States Coast Guard is a branch of the military. And the NYPD has more personnel than they do. That should frighten you. That should really, but let me rephrase that. I don't want you to be frightened. That should bother you, at least. That should make you take a second look and go, huh? Why do we need whatever it is, the 7th or 8th largest army in the world in New York City? That's a standing army. What did the founding fathers say about standing armies? Did anybody see how the standing army acted towards peaceful protesters? And I don't care if you don't agree with the Occupy Wall Street protesters. Not all of them were commies. Some of them were actually intelligent. The ones they just showed on TV were the commie morons. And there were a lot of commies in there and a lot of young kids being steered in the wrong direction. But the point is, they weren't out there causing harm. They were out there protesting. They were engaging and exercising their First Amendment right. I don't care if you don't agree with what they say. They should arrest them, those stupid hippies. Really? So when you go out and you protest what Obama does, if you're a quote-unquote conservative and you don't like the liberals, and those dumb liberal hippies, they should get what they got. Ha, ha, ha. Well, what happens when it's conservatives out there protesting and they're getting beaten and maced? If you do not stand up for someone else's right to free speech, yours will be taken away as well. I don't care if you don't like what someone else says. I don't care. The First Amendment doesn't say you're free to say whatever you want, except if so-and-so doesn't like it or gets offended. And then we can't do it. Then I can't say it. It's in there. I guess it's really tiny. I got to look close. I got to go back and look, right, in the First Amendment? No. Unpopular speech has to be protected. Popular speech doesn't need protection because everybody likes it. Duh. It's the unpopular stuff. There's a lot of crap out there I don't agree with. There's a lot of radio hosts and radio networks and stuff out there that talk about things I don't agree with. I would never, ever say that they should be taken off the air. Because if I promoted that, then I'm no better than the people I'm supposedly against. I'm lowering myself. Does not matter if I like their speech or not. Doesn't matter if I agree with it. It could make me sick to my stomach hearing things. It does not matter. Who the hell am I? I can't just take, I'm going to take away their right to free speech because it offends me. No, one must stand up for it, even if you dislike it and you hate it. Going to break, final segment coming up. Don't go anywhere.
Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back, into the light, We can climb out of hell, 1 inch at a time. When you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. Hell yeah. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw out fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ain't that the truth? I decided to break that out again for you to push the idea, because I cannot push this enough, that we all need to work together. No one individual is going to stop this plan. No one individual is responsible for putting their little 2,000-year plus plan into action. Not one individual is responsible. Many are, and it's going to require many of us to stop it. And I could sit here and rant for the final segment and tell you, rant about something in the news or go off on something or dissect some of the propaganda. But I'd rather leave you today on a positive note. And even when I have a packed show, I always try to tell everybody, at the end, I love you guys. Leave on a good note, no fear, only love. But I'd rather dedicate the entire last segment to putting out a positive vibe and reminding you that it is okay and that we will get through this. Too often we get distracted by all the news, and a lot of times, and even people in the alternative media do this. As the mainstream media pushes out fear all the time, but people in the alternative media do it. Some do it for money. Some do it to try to make a name for themselves. Some do it without even realizing it. And I try to do neither of the three. None of them. Well, not neither, because that would make it two. So I try not to do any of the three, I should say. None of them. I try not to push out fear. And sometimes what we're talking about, you'll hear me say, something will slip past my lips, like I'll say, that should frighten you or something. And I automatically try to correct myself because I don't want you to be frightened. I want you to be aware, and I want you to be educated, but I do not want you to be scared. They thrive on your fear, ladies and gentlemen. They require it to control you. The false ego is a parasite. They are a physical manifestation of the false ego, this control system, but we also have our own false egos that we fight as individuals on a micro level within inside of us. Once you defeat, and I actually even shouldn't say defeat, because you never really defeat the false ego. It's a constant battle. That's part of the evolution. But once you understand it and you learn how not to let it control you and how to take control of yourself, then you can put that forward out into the rest of the world. But we can't expect any type of change in this political system unless we change ourselves from within first. We have to change the way we look at things. We have to step back and use logic and not emotion when things happen. Hundreds of years ago, people were taught in this country to use logic when looking at a situation. And now they're not taught that at all. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They're taught to react on their emotions. Never use any logic or any thought. You're chastised for that. You're made fun of in school for that. You have fingers pointed at you for that. It's all control. It's all about control and shaping you, keeping you in line. You're always afraid of something. Not getting a date, being ugly, not having enough money, losing your house, not having a job, the terrorist in your closet. Is my neighbor a terrorist? Am I going to get pulled over and beaten up by a cop? Is an asteroid going to hit? Are aliens going to come and eat everybody? Are they going to stage a false flag event at the Olympics? Fear, 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 fear. A lot of this hype about the false flag event at the Olympics. Look, if something happens, then I will I will gladly dissect it, tear it apart, and do show after show after show about it, going over it if I think it's a false flag event. And discussing the idea that something could happen at the Olympics once or twice, perfectly fine. But pumping out that vibe of, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Do you know how many people I had message me via Facebook, Twitter, and email in the past week asking me if I thought that a false flag event was going to happen? I counted before I came on air today. 27. 27. In like a 5-day period, messages. Now that may not sound like a lot, but 27 people in the know. This wasn't brain dead people. This wasn't the general populace. This was people that are awake. And they were, do you think something's going to happen? Do you think something's going to happen? That's fear. That's what the disinformation does. And that a lot of times that's one of our downfalls in the alternative media, that people will hop on things just like the mainstream will, sometimes without looking too far into it. I've made that mistake. Because I've made that mistake in the past, in years past, I'm on top of myself about that now. And I won't allow the same mistake again. At least, to the extent of that I have control over it. But a lot of people jump on stuff without thinking logically, and they push out the fear. Same thing with that FBI quote-unquote DNS attack. A lot of people in the alternative media were reading what the mainstream media was pushing out. They were saying that it was going to be a malware attack and blah, 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 blah. And that's not even the story. That's not what happened. It was a cover story that they had put out to cover up the real true facts of the situation. Winston came on a month before, talked about it, and I played what he said again on air the day before. And I said, I guarantee you nothing happens tomorrow. And what happened? Nothing. A lot of this is about the fear. It's about putting it out there because they know sometimes people will run with it and it'll get out of control. And they even control the alternative media to a certain extent by how they throw little nuggets out there. And they know that some of this stuff is going to just get swallowed right up and people run with it. That should piss off the people in the alternative media that know who they are. And I'm not ragging on you guys. I'm pointing it out because we need to stop it. The key is the fear. Like V said in V for Vendetta. But the real beauty of the plan was the fear. Because through the fear, they controlled everyone. And they were able to get away with everything they got away with and take people's rights. And it's happening in reality. They use fear to control us all. And it is time to stand up and, like Neo in the Matrix, look at Agent Smith and the other two guys who are firing their bullets, put your hand up and say, no. No. Fall in love with the word no, ladies and gentlemen. I will not fear. No, I will not fear. No, I will not acquiesce, and I will not give in to you. I hope that gives you some inner strength. I'll see you all again Wednesday. I love you all. No fear, only love. I'm out.